to cooking with that, but today I'm taking you to the land of swallows. Yes, a lot of swallows, or TZ, how you'd want to call it, or Banku, depending on where you come from. Yes, so this is my TZ and I served it in my leaves. Yeah, so I'm going to teach you how to make it, whether you want to use beans like Bambara beans, or whether you want to go in with other cereals like millet aside your normal corn kind of TZ. We're going to do the corn as well, the pure corn, and then with the cassava dough. So I begin by having a part of my corn flour in there, which I'm going to add in water and mix this up. This actually helps you prevent lumpy TZ when you are actually doing it. So this is one way to improve it, especially for beginners. So you mix this down and then you go in to prepare your hot water on your fire, and then you actually pour this in. Salt is not really needed. Salt is pretty much very optional. And then you pour this into the hot water once it's boiling, and then you mix this up. And this is very easy to do. This is the porridge bit, which is going to help you with your formation of your TZ. So this type I'm doing here is the corn with the cassava flour, and I realized that my corn had doubled so much. My pot was so small, so I had to transfer into a bigger pot, and then once it came to a boil, I then had to scoop like more than half of it into another bowl as well, or virtually half of it into another bowl. I poured in the cassava flour into it initially. Yeah, so the cassava flour helps makes it very soft, but the thing about the cassava flour TZ is that when you mix it with the corn, after 2 or 3 days, it begins to ooze out water and separate. So this is good if you are eating it that very same day or the day after. It's not good to have it for longer, unless you want to keep it in your fridge as well. So I poured in the cassava first, I mixed it up, then I added in a bit of the liquid base to it, and then as it's becoming harder, I just continue stirring. Then I added in all the corn based into it, the corn flour into it, and then the porridge keeps going in bit by bit to help me mix the whole thing together. If your porridge is not enough, you can use hot water, normal warm water, and let it actually cook in there. So like I was saying, it has its pros, it has its cons in there. You need to stir this very well to make sure that you get very good textured TZ in there, and this is not very hard to do. This is very easy. The corn flour that we are using here, when you go to the market and you tell them you want corn flour for TZ, they will show you. This is soaked like for 1 day. It is taken to the mill. They take off the skin of the corn, and then they mill it, and after milling they dry it out, and it becomes very dried and very powdery. It's not like the Banku type where they pre-soak for 3 days and ferment. So this is not fermented. So that's a difference in there. Now you're going to cook this till it is cooked all through and it's thick enough, and you just put it into your leaves and you fold it. So this is how I fold it in the leaf. So there was a bit of gap on this one because I took quite a big scoop in there. You can make this a bit light if you want, but I don't like it to be too peche. Like, I like my TZ to be a bit firm in there as well. And like I said, the leaves is healthy. It also adds its own aromatics to it, and it's more sustainable than the rubber as well. Let's reduce the production of rubber and the use of it in our kitchens. And this is very hot, so I like to let this sit and then cool down. And I enjoyed it, of course, with my TZ greens and my TZ stew. You can check that out as well. Now if you don't want to add the cassava, which I personally love this type, this is my favorite type when it comes to the corn, which is pure corn without the cassava. So yes, technically most people would want to start the hot water first before they actually would add in the mixed corn, but it doesn't matter. You can still have just the corn mixed with water and put it on your fire like you're doing cocoa. The only thing is that you'd have to stir through from the start to the end. So that is why most people rather mix and then pour it into the hot water instead. So that's the main thing. But if you mix it like cocoa and put it on fire, it will still cook. Once you see it cooked all through, it's bubbling all through, then you can actually scoop like half of it out and you can pour your corn into it, and then you just make sure that you actually stir it up and mix everything in till it incorporates. Now I like this type because this type is able to stay for longer on your shelf. This can take about 5 days in your kitchen without it being in the fridge. And if it's in the fridge, you can even go like 1 month, 2 months with it in the fridge. Although I don't really recommend you keep food in your fridge for so long, because you may be tempted to cook new things, overstock, and throw some away. So yes, once you're cooking this, just be adding the rest of the porridge bits to it in there, and that will give you good result. You don't want this to be too hard on the fire, else you're going to get overly heavy kind of TZ. Yes, and if it's too watery too, when it's hot, you can't really eat it unless it cools down before you can actually eat it. And I like Etel. I'm a fancy girl, so this really came in handy for me, because this is still corn, this is still thick, and this is like pure corn, and I like pure corn kind of meals. So I wrapped them in my leaves, and then once it cools just a little bit, you can actually enjoy it, because the shape would have formed beautifully. And yes, this is a pure corn TZ in there as well. So to the third type of TZ I like to do now is the Bambara Beans TZ, or your beans flour TZ. You can use any beans of your preference, whether it's black eyed beans, Bambara beans, red beans, any beans you want. You can actually use it for your TZ. You begin by milling your dried beans into flour, yes. And for the beans, don't worry if the flour is not too smooth. What matters is do what your blender can help you do. So I like to prep and do this before I actually would start making it the day I want to do it. So for this, yes, shout outs to Lizzie. Yeah, she actually shot this with me. So you begin by doing your cocoa once again. So your hot water goes on fire. You mix a bit of your flour with water. Like I said, if you can even decide to just mix it straight and then do it on your, like in your pan, but that will mean you stirring all through. Your hand will pain you. That's the reality. And if it's a large stock, it can be a bit tricky. So we just mixed it up on the stove. That was pretty much very thick and very heavy. Yes, and instead of pouring the flour in bits, because this can cause yes, it can be very funny if you incorporate it in the flour form, especially if you are alone and if you're a first timer. So one trick you can also do is to mix the other part and pour it into it as well. So that's another trick about making your TZ. And you're going to be mixing this up. And like I said, if your porridge base is small, you can use water, whether it's hot water, warm water, is going to do the trick. For me, I can eat other forms of TZ without salt, but for my beans TZ, dear, please, I want a bit of salt. I want a bit of salt to taste in. That gives it like that good vibe in there. It doesn't feel like you're a sick person or something. So yes, but that's just by the way. But I like a bit of salt in there as well. And you're going to be really like cooking this, stirring it against the wall of your saucepan, just to make sure that it is lump free and to activate some sort of texture into it, to make it more elastic in there as well. The beans TZ is very tasty, it's very nutritious, it's more protein based than carbohydrates. So if you are really dieting, checking your weight, special diets, this kind of swallow is actually like the best for you. And I liked it because of the nutritious part and because of the texture, and the color was nice. Yes, you don't need to waste your time taking the eyes and things off, because that is also its own nutrition. And I ate it with dried okra stew, which is also here. You can check that out. Now the last type I did was the millet TZ. I make this more simple. I just buy my millets, take out the stones, sieve out the chaff under, and then I just blend it into a flour. Like I said, use your mill at home. You don't need to stress yourself so much. But if you can buy pure millet flour, that also works. You want to begin by fermenting a part of your millet flour to add in the taste. If the flour is not, like if it's just the pure flour without the fermentation, it tastes a bit interesting. It's the fermentation that gives it that nice vibe. So when you start cooking, you're going to start cooking with the fermented water. Unfortunately, this can take a bit of while, so you want to do it like 12 hours or overnight to get good results. Now it was cold weather, I wasn't getting that fermentation, so when we're making this, we had to add in apple cider to give it that like kind of vibe. And yeah, that's going to boil because of the fermented stuff we placed in. It's going to boil giddy giddy up like that, and then you're going to mix the flour with water once again, pour it into it, and then we're going to be mixing. So we realized that yes, the cocoa was too runny, so we mixed more millet flour into it. Yes, millet doubles up a lot and thickens a lot, so you need quite some amount of water to actually go with this as well. So yes, once that is being mixed, you're going to make sure that the cocoa is well done and it starts boiling. Then you're going to actually split this up, and then we're going to continue the same process like we did before. If you cover your saucepan fully, it may like boil into the fire, and so sometimes you want to just adjust it just a little bit. And like I said, this is supposed to also help you making it very simple. So you actually inculcate your flour in bits and then you mix it up. If you think this will be tricky for you, you can decide to mix it with a bit of water and pour it in all once, but you need to be careful of your water usage if you're going that route. So once it's thick and you're struggling to mix it, please pour some of the cocoa or the liquid base we've done into it and then continue stirring. The whole idea is that you want this to cook, but you want it to be smooth, and the wooden ladle, the flat one, would help you. So you mix it and you hit it against the wall of your saucepan. That is the whole trick in there, and you'll be incorporating the porridge base that we've done bits by bit to make sure that it lightens up. If you don't really like if you don't really stir it too well and then incorporate it well, you won't get a good texture. So you need some sort of energy when you're doing this as well. If the water is small and it's still too thick, you have to add in water, because millet takes in a lot of water. Millet takes in a lot of water and doubles up a lot, even more than corn. So you need to be very careful with your millet as well. So once we're done, we poured in a bit of water in and allowed it to cook, to soften the millet up and to give us good texture as well. And that also helps you rest your arms a little as well. Then we mixed it all up, and like I said, on the stove, if it's very thick, then you know that when it cools down, it's going to be extremely thick. So you want to have a texture which is not so runny, but it's not overly thick. Yes, those who sell it there, sometimes they can make it overly runny so that it will look big, but then it won't be so much like millet in there. But this is for the home, and this is, you know, made in Cooking with Abba's Kitchen. So yes, you can also scoop with your ladle. Just passing it in water and then using it to scoop will make your work also very easy. And for this, we did it like the local way, how most people would do it. Most people would like to just use their polythene or their cling film and then just wrap it in like we do for the Banku as well. This is pretty much very hot. And for this, I enjoyed it very much. And we ate this with jojo, which is actually peanut butter stew or soup, which is inspired from the northern region, around the Dagari area. So yes, thank you very much to Lizzie as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, and make sure that I meet you in the next food moment. Live life to the fullest. Be joyous, be merry. Lots of love from my team and I.